part about it is we will discuss here also. We have certain polls, so we will discuss here also. So both parts, because retaining the audience for about close to about 2.5 hours is quite difficult. I'm sure it will be difficult for your end also. So we will make it as simplified. But from the perspective of examination, whether it is CA Inter or CA Final or CWA for that matter, this chapter constitutes about 8 to 10 marks in the examination. So that is it's a good number of marks. And more importantly, being a legal subject, it is quite important for us that we understand the words in the right sense. That's very important, that we understand in the right manner. So this particular topic, we will now take you through directly. If you have doubts, I will be giving specific time where you can stop me and ask the doubts, so that time will be given to you and you can share your doubts. Right now, let me move on directly into the subject. Exemptions basically means the list of areas where the government says you don't have to pay GST. The government says you don't have to pay GST because for various reasons. Maybe they are very economically important products or services for the end consumer. So the government says it is required that you don't pay, or it is because that of certain specific political relevant reasons, they might have given these exemptions also. So all these exemptions powers, where is it derived? The powers to give exemptions is derived from where? That's the next question. So the GST law gives all the powers. Section 11 of the GST Act gives powers to the government to give exemptions for various products or services. But of course, these exemptions can be given only on specific recommendations from the GST Council. So GST Council keeps on recommending a lot of things. Every now and then we have about 39 GST meetings over. So these exemptions, what we are going to discuss is updated till December 2019, because that's what is more relevant for the examination. So we will be covering towards that directions. Right now, let me move on directly. So we will have, I hope you will have your pen and papers ready. So you can also parallelly note it down. We will be sharing this side of a presentation at the end. But as I told you, there is an MCQ based questions which we have prepared. We will be sharing you that link. You can test yourself on this exemptions topic post this session is getting over. We'll be sharing you that link. Fine. So let me move on directly. Let's target. We have, as I told you, we have broadly categorized into multiple parts. We will start with a specific industry. We have grouped it industry wise. I just want your feedbacks here and there. Okay, I hope my screen is visible to you. You can put an S if my screen is visible to you, so that I can move forward. Is my screen visible? You can just put an S. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Right, so we will go. So these are the broad industries we have categorized. We will be starting from healthcare industry onwards. So from healthcare, we will move forward to a lot of industries. We'll go into renting of industry. We'll get into legal services. We'll get into associations. So we have broadly grouped it into each category: transport of goods, passengers, education. So typically the exemptions chapters, which is about 10 marks for your examination, we broadly grouped it. There are about 150 plus exemptions are there overall. So we are trying to cover all of them. But however, as I told you, we will have part 1 today being covered, so that you will have some time to revise. And I repeat, as we go through, once we finish it, maybe one time you go through this, you should have absolute control over this particular chapter. Fine. So what are these exemptions talking about? What we are going to discuss is only exemptions for services. For products, if you start discussing, you have to keep on discussing for a year, because there are lots of exemptions are there. So for services is what we are going to now focus, and that is given in notification number 12/2017. Specifically says that you can focus on service related exemptions. Okay, let me directly start with the first industry we will be focusing on. So we will start with industry number 1, which is healthcare industry. So healthcare is basically one of the most important sector, and of course where the consumption by the ultimate consumer is high. So government said we will not put GST for healthcare related activities. So I have just coined a small acronym to remember for your examination. So we have used this word Rajinikanth in Tamil. We have one famous actor, and his famous movie is called Basha. Okay, So we will use the same name, Bhasha, and then we have added one extra R that represents basically the a recent amendment they have made. So Bhasha or Bhashar is what I have coined. And certain acronyms might look totally awkward, but as I told you that after some time, what we will remember will be those acronyms, and that will help us to remember the basic content. Because here, more than the conceptual clarity, we also have to have the memory as regards these particular areas is concerned. So we will start with Bhasha. Is my voice audible? I think I have got a feedback that mine is not audible. So I hope. Yeah, thank you so much. So the first industry we will focus is healthcare related industry. So there are totally 8 specific points we have in exemptions. Bhasha is basically BASHAR. So we will also discuss in the same direction. So I'll just click what are all consisted in healthcare related industries. Okay, so this is there are totally 8 points as we told. So we will just quickly run through these points. As we told, we will also have a poll then and there. So at that time, we will discuss more specifically on each of these points. So B represents biomedical waste treatment plant operator. That is B. So this is the Bhasha. So B starts with biomedical waste treatment. Most of these hospitals have a lot of bio wastages, the syringes, they have to dispose it off in a eco-friendly way, but at the same time, they are all biomedical waste. So there will be some common service provider who helps all these hospitals in removing all these wastages and also processing these wastages. Services by that particular person for CE is representing clinical establishment is exempt from GST. Basically, hospitals have all these wastages. Any third party who is providing these services, they are being given exemption. That's the first point. So B is biomedical waste treatment plant. A is quite simple, animal health care. So birds and animal health care is A by a veterinary clinic. And S represents stem cell bank. Nowadays, one of the, once the child is born, you have the umbilical cord, and from the umbilical cord, they extract stem cells. And these stem cells will be stored for about 21 plus years. So many years they store these stem cells. There are certain agencies who store these stem cells. So whatever charges you pay for storing these stem cells, all these are called stem cell banks. So it does not talk about blood bank. Blood bank charges, if any, would be taxable. Whereas stem cell bank charges has been given an exemption. So this is because of the lot of medical developments which are happening in this particular sector. So this is about yes. H represents healthcare services. Now, healthcare services is in what we are discussing. What is this talking about? So this specifically talks about healthcare services by certain specified parties. So this talks about only healthcare services of 3 categories only, which is basically if a patient comes, what we will do is we will treat them. Post treatment, actually we will diagnose them. Then post that we will treat them, and of course we will take good care of them. So this is something quite normal. So all these 3 limbs, treatment, diagnosis and care, all these 3 are being given exemption from GST. And who has to do that? It's very important. So there are 3 conditions to that. The first condition is what activity they have to do, which is treatment or diagnosis or care. And who has to do that? Basically, we have mentioned here CAMP has to do that. So when you say CAMP, CA represents, C represents the C represents clinical establishment, that is C. AMP represents authorized medical practitioner, basically a doctor. So hospital, it could be an individual doctor or it could be a corporate hospital, or the other P represents paramedics. When you say paramedics, it represents somebody who assists the doctor in effectively completing their services. Let's say, for example, somebody got a fracture or injury. Now, this will be treated by an ortho doctor. Post that, what the ortho doctor will do, he will go and refer that guy to a physiotherapist to whom he has to go and get his problem solved. So that physiotherapist basically takes the character of a paramedics. So paramedics is somebody who assists the doctors in effectively completing their services. So healthcare services provided by CAMP is being given exemption. And when we say healthcare, it represents treatment, diagnosis, and care should be there. So we have now covered what activity is covered and who has to do that. So that is also important. And one more thing is what and all specifically they are covering it. What type of diseases they are covered. Of course, it talks about disease, basically DIP. So disease, illness, and injury and pregnancy. So these are all the treatments which they can do, and all these are exempt from GST. One specific point which we wanted to say, cosmetic or plastic surgery would be taxable. There's no exemption for cosmetic or plastic surgery. Yeah. So the cosmetic surgery would be taxable. There is no exemption for cosmetic surgery. However, let's say somebody has broken their hand through some accidents, and because of that there is an injury. So what nowadays hospitals prescribe is get the plastic surgery done to recover that particular skin. So if because of injury there is a plastic surgery being done, then you don't have to pay GST for the same. So it says plastic cosmetic surgery in general would be taxable. However, if that is because of any trauma or injury, if that is being carried out, and then it will be eligible for exemption. So this is what the government specifically gives an exemption for. Fine. So this is about the Basha, so which we are discussing. So B represents, you can parallelly recollect yourself. So B represents biomedical waste treatment plant. A represents animal health care. S represents stem cell banks, and H represents healthcare services. So, and these healthcare services must be by a doctor or a hospital or a paramedics. Paramedics is somebody who assists the doctor. For example, let's say somebody has gone through a diabetic related surgery. So there will be a nutritionist who will assist the doctor in prescribing certain kinds of diet. That nutritionist will be exempt from GST because she or he takes the character of a paramedics. Now remember that physiotherapist, let's say you have some back pain issues and you go directly to a physiotherapist and he gives you certain things. It's not directly being given exemption. So paramedics is somebody who helps the doctors to solve the problems of the doctor. So that's how it is covered. Independently going to a nutritionist or independently going to a paramedics is not covered under this particular exemptions. Right? So this is about the exemptions for healthcare. Now the next question that would arise in this regard, sir, recently I went for let's say a new naturopathy. Is it covered? I went for acupressure because that is quite becoming popular now. I went for acupuncture. All these are covered. The government says there's a ministry is there for this particular sector, which is called as Ayush. Ministry of Ayush is there. So whichever systems recognized under that Ministry of Ayush, only they are being given exemption. Now, as it says, the ministry itself says Ministry of Ayush. So when you say Ayush, you can see there are that itself is the acronym AAYUSH. They now added the word N, Ayushan, we can say. So AAYUSH. This is the Ministry of Ayush. So can you just put in your chat box, based on your understanding, what are all the recognized systems of medicines in India? You can put it in your chat box. It will be useful. Anybody who can put it in your chat box. What are the recognized systems of medicines which is available in India? You can also raise hand so that I can unmute you, in fact, and allow you to speak. Yeah. So first one is okay. So we have Ayurveda, Siddha, Naturopathy, Homeopathy, Unani, Siddha, Ayurveda, Unani. Perfect. I would suggest you can even unmute and speak yourself. So I'll just allow you to unmute. If you are not speaking, you can mute yourself. Yeah. Anybody who can unmute yourself and speak, so so that we can have more interactions. Okay, so people prefer, noting down. Okay, fine. Siddha, Ayurveda, Unani, we have seen. Homeo, we have seen. Allopathy is there. Perfect. And then anything else is covered? Yoga, very good. So the name itself is very simple. Ayush, now they have added the word Yan. So A represents Ayurveda. Another A is there which represents allopathy. All the pathis will be covered first. Okay, so allopathies. And then Y represents yoga, U represents Unani, and AAYU, represents Siddha, and H represents homeopathy is also covered. Homeopathy is very much covered. And then the last one they recently added is N, which represents naturopathy. Okay, so Ayush N is what is acronym. So these are the recognized systems of medicines for which the government has given an exemption. So healthcare services, which is all these things, treatment, diagnosis, care, by authorized medical practitioner. CAMP represents, C is clinical establishment, authorized medical practitioner, and paramedics in these recognized systems of medicine are exempt from GST. Okay. Now, can you let me know in your chat box, what are all, do you know, other systems of medicine? Can you let me know what are the other systems of medicine which you are aware of? So most of you would have seen a lot of advertisements, or day to day you would have seen a lot of posters, ads. So apart from all these things, what are the other systems, medicinal systems available? Can you put it in your chat box, or you can unmute and speak? Both ways fine. So I'm still waiting for the answers to pop up. So day to day we keep seeing across the road so many different systems of medicines. Okay, so we have acupuncture. Even we have told acupuncture is there, excellent. Acupressure is there. There's another medicine. So somebody puts the needle and somebody just touches. So acupuncture, acupressure is there. Then anything else which talks about the medicinal systems, other medicinal systems. You would have heard of something called Reiki. You would have heard. Yeah, pranic healing is there. Excellent. Very good, Muja. So pranic healing, Oriental medicine. டெக்னிக்கலா போட்டிருக்காரு அவரு. ஸோ ஓரியன்டல் மெடிசின், இந்த மாதிரி வேர்ட் நான் தான் கேள்விப்படுறேன், இருக்கலாம் பட் நான் தான் கேள்விப்படுறேன். ஸோ ஓரியன்டல் மெடிசின். ஓகே, ஸோ அதுக்கப்புறம் வந்து யூ வுட் ஹவ் ஹர்ட் ஆஃப் ஃபிஷ் தெரப்பி, அதுக்கப்புறம் வந்து மேக்னட்டோ தெரப்பி, எலக்ட்ரோ மேக்னட்டோ தெரப்பி. ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி தேர் ஆர் டிஃபரெண்ட் சிஸ்டம்ஸ் அவைலபிள். ஸோ ஆல் தீஸ் ஆர் நாட் ரெகக்னைஸ் சிஸ்டம்ஸ் ஆஃப் மெடிசன். தே மே கியூர் த டிசீஸ், but they are not recognized systems of medicine. So it means okay, so the question is physiotherapy, is it a recognized systems of medicine? Physiotherapist is whether he is a authorized medical practitioner. That's a question comes. So authorized medical practitioner is somebody who is registered with the relevant council, which means medical council. Physiotherapist does not go through the MBBS process. They don't get registered under the medical council as such. So in which case they are considered, if they are paramedics, they are exempt. Otherwise they are not exempt. So once what happened, we had one of our clients who happens to be the Indian cricket team's physiotherapist. So the question which was put forward was whether whatever fees he is getting, should he pay GST or not? What is your answer? Should he pay GST? He's a Indian team's physio. So what's his role is to ensure that the players are fit. It's not that he will go and address it only when there's a problem. He will always be there. So to ensure that the players are always fit. So what is your view? Should he pay GST or not? Indian team's physiotherapist, should he pay GST or not? First question. So what are the things we need to ask? First is he providing a healthcare service? What is healthcare service? Is it treatment, diagnosis, or care? Of what? Should be some disease should be there. So here is even if there is no disease, he still has to be there to advise people on fitness. So it means he doesn't come under the category of health care services. He is neither a registered authorized medical practitioner, so he will not be considered as covered under this exemption. So he will be taxable. Chemotherapy is part of allopathy. Okay, so that is something which is effectively part of the English medicine. So that is exemption. That is exempted. Pranic healing, all these things have been taxable. So if somebody is into acupressure or acupuncture, and he is providing services for worth more than 20 lakhs, he has to get registered and pay GST. That's what we are trying to say here. So going forward, the fifth exemption they have given is ambulance services have been given exemption. Now note, ambulance, nowadays you can see a lot of private ambulances, that is certain businesses only run ambulance. So private lines will be there. So they are also given exemption. Ambulance services have been given exemption. The recent amendment which is applicable for this exam and the next exam is on this point. So the government has given a new exemption for rehabilitation professionals. Okay, so it's not rehabilitation, so rehabilitation professionals. So basically somebody has gone through certain mental stress or trauma, and normally these guys will come inside and advise on the counseling part, make them come back to the normal life. So these rehabilitation professionals are essentially part of so many locations. You could have seen these people as part of the hospitals, typically that one. Apart from that, they could be part of an education institution where they are like a counselor. They are not education counselors, but rather they are more related to the mental counseling of the people. Or they could be part of certain old age homes or certain trusts, which will be primarily focusing on rehabilitation of various people. So services provided by such registered rehabilitation professionals are also being given exemption. There's a new exemption which has been introduced quite recently. It is applicable for this examination as well as next examination. So let me put it very simple. Bashar is the exemption. Basha and R is the recent amendment they have added. This is for healthcare sector. Okay. Somebody asked the question, sir, gym, is it considered as a healthcare and is it eligible for exemption? Gym comes under, what is your answer? You can put it in the chat box, yes or no. You can say yes taxable or no not taxable. You can decide your answer and let me know. So gym, would it be taxable or exempt? Okay. So you can, yes means taxable, no means exempt. Or yeah, you can keep it that way. Let's be straight. So yes, taxable, no exempt. And my question is it taxable or not? The answer is yes, very much it is taxable. Why is it taxable? Because it is not treated as a clinical establishment. It is not an authorized medical practitioner and it is not a paramedics. See, always remember in this context, especially in exemptions, it is quite easy to answer the questions yes or no. But in the examinations, we also have to ensure that we give the right reason of why it is taxable or why it is exempt. So you need to say it's not a recognized clinical establishment and hence exemption has to be given for the same. So this is what we need to kind of keep in mind when you discuss these points. Okay, so anyway at the end we'll talk about more on the this point. So this is Basha. Now we move into the next industry which deals with legal lawyer services. So normally in a very simplest way if you tell, lawyers are considered to be above the law. That's what we can simply say. Lawyers are above the law. It means lawyer services, they will not pay the tax. The services will either be no tax or for the services somebody else will be paying the tax. At the end of the day, they will not be paying the tax for lawyers. And please remember that legal services here represents only services related to any law. If they are providing other than legal services, then it would not be covered as part of this point. So what we have done here is there are some points here. So legal services represents, it's only an advice or it is a representation or consultancy in any branch of law. For example, you go to some advocate and you're asking him, sir, what is the taxability of this transaction? So that is related to income tax or GST. You go to an advocate and ask, sir, whether this contract is valid, is it okay? You are going, ask him to go through the entire property documents. It's again a contract related to the properties. It is a law related to Contract Act. So it is still related to law. If you go to an advocate and you are going to tell that I want a consultancy related to my management. I want a succession planning to be done for my company. I want some advisory on how to motivate my employees. Then it is not related to any branch of law. In such cases, it would not be treated as legal services. Okay, so let's be clear. So what it says, advice, representation or consultancy should be there related to any branch of law for that matter is covered. So what are the, now here what we have done is, there are about 8 to 10 exemptions are there in this sector, but it is very easy to remember what is taxable. Other than this, everything else is exempt. So what we have now done here is For lawyer services alone, we have highlighted here what is taxable instead of giving what is exempt. It's quite easy to remember that way. So we have given that point. So the first exemption is given for first taxability. Be clear, it's taxable. So if an advocate, so what are the situations? Let us discuss. If an advocate provides services to a businessman, then that is taxable, provided the businessman's turnover, the businessman's business total turnover in the previous financial year is more than the basic exemption limit in GST. Okay, then it is taxable. Who has to pay the GST? Not the lawyer. It has to be paid by the businessman. So it says services provided to an advocate, services provided by an advocate to a business entity. Now, when you say business entity, many people assume that it is only for partnership firm, etc. No. Business entity means any person in business is business entity. It could be an individual like us. That is also a business entity only. So any service provided to a business entity and the business entity's turnover in the previous financial year. Now, every word is important. This was an amendment made recently. Earlier it was not like this. So the turnover of that businessman in the previous year exceeds the exemption limit applicable for him, then he is like that particular service is taxable. Now remember, what is the exemption limit under GST? Can you put it in your chat box? Can you just tell what is the exemption limit applicable under GST? Up to which amount you are not required to pay GST? Can you put it in the chat box? Or you can even unmute an answer. I've just given a free hand. You can put your answers. Okay. Goods 40 lakhs, service 20 lakhs. One answer. Any other answer? $40 lakhs for supply of goods, 20 lakhs for supply of service. Okay. Goods is 40 lakhs. Excellent. Okay. Services lakhs. Special category states 10 lakhs and 20 lakhs. So we need to keep all these things in mind. So if there happens to be a person in northeastern states and certain states like Chandigarh, Union Territories, then you have to take exactly half of this number. So basically it says whoever is crossing that limit. Okay, now the question is, let me give an example. You tell me whether this particular service is taxable or not. I have gone to an advocate to take a legal opinion on a particular tax matter. Okay, I paid advocate about 5 lakh rupees. This happened in this May 2020. Okay. My current year business is zero, lockdown. So current year business is absolutely zero. My last year business 1920. My last year business is about 30 lakhs. I repeat, my last year business is 30 lakhs. Okay, this 30 lakhs consists of goods 10 lakhs and services 20 lakhs. So both put together 30 lakhs. I repeat, goods 10 lakhs, or you can keep goods 15 lakhs, services 15 lakhs. I repeat, goods 15 lakhs, services 15 lakhs. Am I liable to pay GST? Is this taxable? So I repeat the question. I went to an advocate. I took a legal opinion on a tax matter. So you have to decide whether it is a legal service or not. Number one. Number two, I am in my business. In current year, my business is zero. However, in previous year, my business is service provided is 15 lakhs, goods supplied is 15 lakhs. So totally 30 lakhs in previous year. Is this taxable or not? I want you to put it in the chat box. Is it taxable or not? So I'm waiting for the answers to come. Yes, as it exceeds 20 lakhs. Yes. Okay. Yeah, always advocates, as I told you, are above the law. So which means we will have to definitely pay, the customer only will pay the GST. That's very clear. Reverse charge only will apply. Now, so the question is, if I am a service provider as well as a supplier of goods, then what is the limit I should apply? Should I apply 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs? That's the question. So if you have answered that question, then the second question will be easier. So the answer will be, once for a service provider, we have to apply 20 lakhs. For only goods supplier, we will apply 40 lakhs. If I am a service provider as well as a supplier of goods, then only 20 lakhs limit will apply, not 40 lakhs. So that means in my example, since I have crossed 20 lakhs limit, I should take overall turnover, I have to be liable for GST. Let me give another example. You tell me what is your answer for the same. I am a educational institution. Okay. I am a school. I have 100 crores is my tuition fees. I receive tuition fees of 100 crores. Okay. Now I went to a lawyer. I took opinion from him on some GST matter. Okay. Should I pay GST or not? What is your answer? So I'm into supply. So first point, is it a legal service? Yes, it is a legal service. Number one. Second point, am I a business entity? Is education institution a business entity? Yes, because education is also treated as business for all practical purposes of the law. It's a business only. So I'm a business entity. Third question is my aggregate turnover is crossing 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs in preceding financial year? So what's your answer? So it takes some time for the chats to display here. So anybody, what's your view on this? But I repeat, my entire 100 crores is exempt from GST. Please note that, because education institution, we'll see later that my entire 100 crores is exempt from GST. So should I pay GST for this particular activity? Am I liable? Any answer? So I have not got any answers from your side. Any specific answers you have? Any doubts you can ask otherwise. Okay, my next question. Let's keep this question pending. My next question is, I am registered under GST. Please note, I am registered under GST, but my turnover is zero. My turnover is zero, but I am registered under GST. Previous year also turnover zero, current year also turnover zero, but I am GST registration is there. I am filing nil returns. I went to an advocate to take an opinion on a particular tax matter. I am paying fees to him. Am I liable to pay GST or not? I means, so I am the customer. I am registered under GST. Am I liable to pay? This is how typically the questions would be asked. So see how a simple wording can be a little more complicated. So you've got, now we are getting interesting answers. So based on every participant start getting different answers. I repeat the question. I am registered under GST, but my business turnover is zero for current year, zero for previous year. Both cases 0, 0. Okay. But I took an advice of an advocate. I'm paying. Should I pay GST or not? So we have got different answers. So let me, Guru Priyan, you have answered no. Why do you think it's no? Can you just unmute yourself and answer? Or anybody else who wants to volunteer and answer? Why some of them said no? Anybody who said yes? Why do you say it's yes? Can you just give your reasoning for the answer? Because reasons are more important, not just the answers alone. Anybody else who wants to justify your answer?
I said a no because it is defined only the turnover and not whether it is registered or not.
Excellent. Okay. So what Dinesh says is only turnover is the criteria mentioned here. Where is it mentioned that once you are registered, you are liable to pay GST? Okay. That's the question he has asked. Okay. Some of us said yes. Okay. Maybe it's, can you just highlight why do you said yes? Yeah, you can speak. Okay. Okay, so the answer is no, it's not required to be registered, because as Dinesh perfectly pointed out, the exemption is purely based on the threshold limit only. It is not based on whether you are registered or not. So even if you are registered, but if your turnover is not crossing these numbers, you are not required to pay GST for these activities. Okay, so this is what we need to be clear. So this is what typically examinations they test on these points. It only says that threshold limit if they cross, liable, otherwise no. Next point, if the same advocate provides, as I told you, any service other than legal services, then everything else will be taxable. Okay. For example, you went to a lawyer. As I told you, he gives HR consultancy. He is giving you management consultancy. All these grants he gives. Then those services will not be, will be taxable straight away. There is no exemption given for the same. Now, please note, for the first part, there is the two parts you have told. The first part, the liability to pay is under reverse charge. It means the customer or the client is supposed to pay. For the second part, the liability to pay is forward charge. It means the advocate should register and pay GST for the same. So this is the difference between these two. The first one is the client will pay. The second one is neither a legal service at all. So the reverse charge is not based on merely as an advocate. The reverse charges, it should be a legal service given by an advocate. Both should be satisfied. Then only you will have the reverse charge applicable. Okay, so I hope I'm clear on this point. Okay, let me move on to the next service. So which is basically renting of immobile. So we have covered effectively about 8 to 9 points till now out of the 140 plus points. Now that
Actually, I have a doubt here.
yeah.
We are seeing healthcare services, exemptions under healthcare services.
Yeah.
There are some canteens exclusively run for the staffs and other attendees inside the hospital. That is, the hospital management itself, it runs for its own staffs and attendees. Attendants.
Okay.
So whether that particular service is taxable?
Okay, so the precise question is, let's say there is a patient admitted in the hospital. What they do is, patient will have an attendant. This attendant will go and have food in the canteen maintained by the hospital.
Yes.
Will also get the food from the canteen maintained from the hospital. There are again two types of patients. Are there inpatient, somebody who gets admitted, and outpatient is somebody who comes and goes off. Okay. So there is a clarification precisely on this point. So the government says that whenever you can see the critical issues here. So in case of hospital canteens, renting of room services, to three categories we can see: inpatient, outpatients, and attendants. There is a circular which is given. And I repeat, there are a lot of circulars the government has given. These circulars are merely opinions of the Central Board of Indirect Tax. It does not, it is technically not binding on the assessee as such. Assessing offices are bound by that. But the government clarifies that if these services, additional services are provided to inpatient, somebody who is within the, who is part of the hospital, then in which case it is not taxable. It is also treated as healthcare service only. It is treated like a composite supply. What is the main supply? Treatment. Healthcare is the main supply. So if naturally somebody is treated, he has to be given a diet plan, and that diet plan also they it will be compensated off by the hospital itself. So if it is to inpatient, it is given exemption. If it is to an outpatient or attendants who is taking care of the patients, for them whatever consumption happens, it is taxable. Okay. Now, how the hospitals will know whether it is an inpatient or outpatient attendance? Typically, the basic understanding is inpatient means they don't, they will just add it to the overall room number and they will bill it. Outpatients or attendants, they have to pay out of the pocket at the relevant canteen place. They don't normally ask them to add it. It's not like room service where you can add it. So this is how the circular has differentiated it. Okay, this to make it clear. So this is what is the distinction. I hope I have addressed that particular.
Thank you so much, sir. Now it's very.
The next one is about legal services. Any doubts on legal services? You can put forward the questions. If any, for anybody else who has doubts, you can put forward the questions on legal services. Okay, so we will move on to the next point, which deals with renting of immovable properties. The next industry we have derived. I repeat, these are all primarily for our understanding. The law has not defined like that. Even the institute material has not defined. So this will have a more easier view of demonstrating things. So renting of immovable property, we have about 9 exemptions here. So totally 9 exemptions are there. Just to remember it a little easier, we have just coined an easy memory hook to remember it. So the basic necessities of a human being is basically food and shelter and cloth is required. So clothing. So I just removed the clothing alone. So food and shelter is considered, which is the basic necessities of human being, and added 2-3 additional points which are very important: food, shelter, road, guard, and equal to guard. Now we have government. Okay, so food, shelter, road, guard, and government. So these are the memory hooks. It might look a little awkward now, but I'm telling you, after 1 week, you will remember this better than remembering the the full list of services itself. So food, shelter, road, guard, and we just add government also. Okay, and when we say food, so from where do we get food? Okay. Of course, from the kitchen, but I'm talking about what is the origin of food? It from agriculture. Okay, so the government says renting of vacant land for agriculture purposes is exempt from GST. So that is food. Okay, so all agriculture purposes, generation related land is exempt. So food. Second is shelter. So where do we live? There are, again, we have grouped into 2 categories: permanent and temporary. Okay, 2 is there. P and T is permanent and temporary. Permanent shelter is our house. Okay, so renting of our residential unit for dwelling purposes is exempt. Okay, so that is very clear again. So our house rent we pay is exempt because it's a residential house. There are 2 conditions. It should be a residential house. It should be for residential purpose. It's very important. Both should be satisfied. Okay, so that is permanent shelter. And where do we mean by temporary shelter? It basically means we are looking at the hotels or the guest houses. So here you can see here the exemptions. So vacant land for agriculture is exempt. Single residential unit for residential purpose. In fact, it's not single residential, just residential unit for residential purpose is exempt. If you stay in a hotel, there's an amendment made. It's very important for your examinations. We focus on this amendment where they said the actual value they are charging, the actual rent, room rent they have charged, tariff is less than or equal to 1,000 rupees. It is exempt. Now, what was the amendment made here? Prior to the amendment, it said where the tariff value, declared tariff value was the word used. Declared tariff value means what they mentioned in the rate card is called declared tariff value. They would have mentioned 2,000 rupees in the rate card, 3,000 rupees in the rate card. Okay. However, after all these discounts, they may actually give it for 900 rupees. So in which case the government says pre-amendment it is taxable because the declared tariff is more than 1,000. Now post-amendment it says only on actual value you have to decide the exemption or taxability. So here the actual value is less than or equal to 1,000 rupees per day. Hence it has been given an exemption. So any guest house, in hotel, lodging, whatever you call it, if the actual value is less than or equal to 1,000. Another amendment is earlier the wording used was only less than 1,000. It means many hotels used to keep the tariff at 990 rupees. We have seen it practically in many situations. They give it 990. But now it says less than or equal to. The word equal to has been the recent amendment again. So up to 1,000 rupees has been given exemption. So whether they will ask such kind of questions, of course, yes, they will be focusing on these kind of nitty-gritty amendments only. So actual value less than or equal to 1,000 is being given exemption. So more than 1,000 is taxable. Okay, that's next point. Food, shelter is over. So I think I'm just going the same understanding. Road. So for using road, we pay toll charges. So that is being given exemption. The toll charges collected by you can see across the national highways, all these have been given exemption. No GST for the same. And road and guard. That's the next point. Okay. So guard also collects rent. God collects rents for what? You would have seen in many temples and many religious places. So outside the temple, many big temples especially you would have seen, there will be a lot of commercial shops will be there, which will be selling right from the puja items to clothing, etc. Everything. Most of these things are basically called precincts. They are called precincts. Precincts means the outer surrounding of the temple. All these things 99% will belong to the temple only. The land will belong to the temple. They would have given on rent to all these shops. So what the government says is, if the temple, which should be a registered temple, means it should be a trust, either charitable trust or it should be a religious trust, and if they have given these precincts, the outer surroundings, to various commercial shops, or not just commercial shops, for any commercial purposes or any purposes for that matter, that has been given exemption. So whatever rent collected for letting out the precincts of the temple is been given exemption. Sometimes, okay, let's me take a bigger example. Let's say you have Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam, Tirupati. So what is the precincts for this temple? Is the next question that will raise. Okay, so you could have seen there's a huge, a big campus itself is there around the temple, and all these things belong. Many of them belong to the temple by itself. So in those cases, they have a lot of lodges inside. They have a lot of kalyana mandapams there, etc. So whatever rent they collect from the lodges, kalyana mandapams, commercial shops, everything has been given an exemption. One interesting point is simple to easy to remember: parking. Parking is also precincts of the temple. Okay, where you can park, where they will collect rent, parking charges is only when if you park it outside the relevant place, so temple. Now in such cases, whatever parking charges they pay, that is also precincts of religious space given on rent. You have been given that small space on rent. That is also been given an exemption. So this is what the government is trying to say. However, it has a limit. The government keep on giving exemption for unlimited amounts, because you could have seen there are a lot of kalyana mandapams owned by temples which are quite famous, and they'll be charging like commercial rent. So in those cases, the government says no, there is a limit to that. So there is a taxable limit is there. So the government says you have been given exemption for renting out all these spaces. However, it is taxable in 3 situations. Let's say you are given this on rent to a commercial shop, then you will collect rent per month. If it crosses 10,000, if it is, note the word here. Here it says if it's commercial shop, if it is greater than or equal to 10,000, then it is taxable. Less than 10,000 exempt. So you can see the difference between here and the previous point. Here it is exempt if it is less than or equal to. It means greater than 1,000 is taxable. Here greater than or equal to 10,000 is taxable if it is commercial shop. If it is Kalana Mandapam, rupees 10,000 per day. If it is room rent, let's say they have a lodge in the precincts of the temple, greater than or equal to 1,000 rupees per day is taxable. So this is what the government has told with respect to the temple. So food, shelter, road, and God. 4 is over. After God, we have government. Okay. Now, what is this government? So this is a recent amendment made. So what happened? The government of Tamil Nadu, not just government of Tamil Nadu, any state, they to develop industries. You would have seen in Tamil Nadu, for example, across Tamil Nadu, outside Tamil Nadu, there are a lot of industries. Not just Tamil Nadu. Every state outside the relevant state or in the borders, they would have a lot of industrial lands. They would have given to so many new industries which are coming up. For example, let's say you take in Telangana. So you have the new companies coming up. In Tamil Nadu, you have new companies in so many other places. So all these are basically belonging to whom? Government. And all these things will be managed by a specific corporation of the government. For example, in Tamil Nadu, all industries are controlled by, all industrial plots are controlled by Tamil Nadu. There is a State Industrial Development Corporation. We call it a SIPCO. Even many places they would have called SIPCO Industrial Estate. So these SIPCO Industrial Estate owns these plots. For example, let's say Hyundai is there. So the land does not belong to Hyundai. Land belongs to SIPCO Industrial Estate, which is basically part of the government. And this land would have been given on a 99-year lease, at least 30-year lease, to various companies on rental basis. So what the government says, this had become big issue in service tax. What happened? They never paid service tax for it. There are a lot of notices given. They had to pay service tax in the past. To avoid all those past issues, the government has given an exemption for it. So it says, if there's an upfront amount you pay for a long-term lease of at least 30 years. As I told you, most of the new companies coming up, they enter into a lease with the industrial government undertakings for at least 30 years. That's why they define the word 30 years there. And for industries, then you have been given an exemption. So if any government undertaking is there, which has given long-term lease of at least 30 years of land for development of industry, that is being given exemption. Tamil Nadu is like Sriperumbudur and Varagadam. There are a lot of places which is owned by government. They are given to private parties on lease basis to develop their properties. So all these cases, Sri City, Andhra Pradesh. So you can see so many places where they give on long-term lease. Whatever charges paid for that has been given an exemption. So this is what the government says. So it could be by CITCO, the lease could be with CITCO, or any entity where the central government or state government owns 20% ownership. So that's more than enough. This is one context. The recent amendment made is a little complicated one. The institute has told this is not applicable for your examination, but however, I will just mention it for the sake that it is mentioned here. The government says, you all will know that construction is taxable. Okay, I repeat, construction of land or building is construction of building is taxable. So how the construction will happen? The government also says if the construction happens and the building is sold after the construction is over, then no GST. If the building is sold under construction, then GST will apply. This is for the builder. Now, who will own the land? The land will be owned by some landowner, because none of these big builders invest on land. The land will be owned by some landowner X. Builder Y will come and he will do the construction. This is what typically happens in a construction property. So the builder who constructs has to pay GST for the buildings he is selling before completion. What about the landowner? Okay, the landowner will normally sell the land to no GST. Some cases, to avoid certain legal complications, the landowner, instead of selling the land, he will give the land for more than 30 years lease. Normally they will say 99-year lease. In fact, in Tamil Nadu in earlier days, they used to say, in India itself it is that till there is an existence of sun and moon, this property is given to you. It means as well as property is given, that's all. But that's how they word it in earlier times for lease. So if the landowner who owns the land gives the land on lease to a builder, or we call promoter, for at least 30 years, then he will charge lease rent for it. That lease rent he need not pay GST, is what we are saying. For provided he need not pay GST, provided GST has been paid by the builder. That's what it says. So for construction, it says upfront amount for long-term lease of at least 30 years for construction of residential apartments on which GST is payable by promoter. So builder will take care of the GST. Means you don't have to pay the GST for this. You means the landowner need not pay the GST for the same. So this is what it talks about. So let me give an example to make it a little more clear. So I own a land, I own a piece of, let's say I own 2,400 square feet of land. I have given this land on lease to you. You are going to construct the building and sell. Okay, it's quite simple. Now, when you are selling, there are two options. You could have sold before completion is done. You could have sold after completion. Let's say you have sold all your flats after completion. Then what will happen? You will not be paying any GST. Then this exemption will not apply. When this exemption is applicable, there is a landowner. He has given the land to a builder and the builder pays GST. Then the landowner will not pay. The builder does not pay GST, then the landowner has to pay GST. This is a simplistic understanding of this particular point. We have some examples to discuss. There we will discuss this more. So this is about how the exemption will work. This is for renting of immobile property. So I repeat: food, shelter, road, God, and government. The government is, this is what is more important, the CITCO industrial undertakings. This particular point is amended recently, but the CA Institute has told whatever amendments related to the real estate sector would not be applicable for your examination. That's what they are told. But however, we wanted to cover this point specifically here. Okay. So this is about how the real estate renting of immobile property industry will work. Okay. So now,
Sir, I have a doubt here.
Yeah.
Some of the properties, immobile properties, are half residential and half commercial.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So let's say you take the example of a CA office. Many of the CA offices, first 2 bedrooms will be office, back end they will have their own house. So in such cases, when the residential house is given to a person who uses it both for commercial purpose and residential purpose, then in which case it is treated as a mixed supply. Why it's mixed supply? Because one portion is taxable, another portion is exempt. In which case, as per mixed supply rule, highest rate will apply. It means the entire service would be liable for GST. So he cannot say no GST. The entire amount will be liable for GST. Even some portion is used for residential purpose, still that also would be liable for GST because it is treated as a mixed supply. Okay, so it entirely will be liable. Yeah. So let me have some queries before proceeding further. So I'm just going to launch a small poll till whatever we had discussed, so that we don't sleep. So then we will move forward from there, right? So we will now launch the poll. It will be visible to you. I want every one of you to answer, read the questions properly and answer it. Okay. It's about 10 questions will be there. So I'm just launching it. Now it will be visible to you. So you can now answer these questions. There are 10 questions. You can take about 10 minutes, 7 minutes to answer it. So the first question, which of the following services is exempt under healthcare services provided by a clinical establishment? Clinical establishment is nothing but hospital. Chemist shop in the hospital selling medicines to public at large. Okay, so this is a little tricky question. That means within the hospital there is a pharmacy. Okay, the pharmacy is selling medicines to everybody. Is it exempt or not? Number one. Is it a healthcare service? Is it covered under the exemptions we saw? Food supplied from an outsourced canteen to inpatients as per the diet prescribed by the hospital dietitian. Advertisement services provided by the hospital to a pharma company for their asthma pump by displaying it prominently in the hospital building. You could have seen once you enter the hospital, there are a lot of different pharma companies who would have displayed their products and they'll collect advertisement for the product. All of the above. It's a very interesting question. So only if you have gone through the provisions clearly, you'll be able to answer it clear. The next question. Hospital charges. I want everybody to participate and answer it. Hospital charges the patients, say rupees 10,000 and pays to the consultants or technicians only 7,500 and keeps the balance services like for providing services like emergency services, infrastructure facilities, etc. Will GST be applicable on retention money? To make it a little more clear, what happens is, let's say I'm a doctor. I'm a visiting doctor in Apollo Hospital. So what will happen? Some patient will come to Apollo Hospital and he will pay 10,000 rupees fees to Apollo Hospital. What Apollo Hospital will do is, I am that doctor. So the hospital will give me 8,000 rupees only. And what about the balance 2,000? That is Apollo Hospital will take. Why they are taking it? That is for the facility they are giving. They are giving nurses. They are giving you all the infrastructure. So for that they are going to retain 2,000 rupees. So the question is, would that be taxable or not? If it is taxable, how much is taxable? Yes, it is taxable, means the entire 10,000 is taxable. No, it is exempt. Yes, it is taxable, means the difference 2,500 is taxable. It is exempt. Entire amount of 10,000 will be chargeable to tax. It is not a supply at all. There is a specific clarification on this point from the government. So that's why we had kept these points in our poll. So it will be useful for you. Which of the healthcare services is not exempt? Cosmetic surgery of accident victim. Cosmetic surgery to restore anatomy is basically your birth defects. Okay, birth defects is also considered exempt only. I've given my clue itself. Hair transplant is given. Then lip treatment of newborn baby. So okay, I repeat, nobody will do lip treatment on newborn baby voluntarily. Okay, I mean, to my knowledge, nobody will do it. So it is only when there is a absolute some injury or some birth defects they will do. So I'm giving clue for that also. Next question. Which of the following services related to recognized health is not exempted? Rent of rooms provided to patients. Ambulance services provided under National Health Mission. Food to others. Consultancy by senior doctors who are not employees. The next question. So I presume when I read, you must have finished by that time before itself. Chronic healing treatments, mortuary services, plastic surgery to restore anatomy of a child affected due to an accident. 1 and 2 are exempt, 2 and 3 are exempt, 3 alone is exempt, 1, 2 and 3 are exempt under GST. The next question. Mr. A and Associates is a legal firm and he has place of business in Tamil Nadu. Mr. B, a senior advocate, has provided legal services to Mr. A and Associates. What is the aggregate turnover threshold for Mrs. A and Associates so that service provided is exempt? I repeat, A and Associates is a legal firm. He is in Tamil Nadu. B is a senior advocate. He is also another advocate basically. So one advocate providing services to another advocate. What is the turnover limit so that the service provided is exempt? No limit, always exempt. 10 lakhs, 40 lakhs, no limit, always taxable. Actually, this point I have not specifically covered, but let's see. We will answer this question. The next one, Mr. A appoints Mr. B advocate in relation to his diverse case. Determine the taxability of service provided by Mr. B. Is it taxable or exempt? Okay, so just a clue on this point because I did specifically discuss this. We said any service by an advocate, legal services by an advocate to a business entity who is crossing the threshold limit is taxable. That's what we told. However, to make it clear, if it's an advocate itself, so that is services by one advocate to another advocate is given specific exemption. I myself given the answer for the same. Services by one advocate to another advocate, irrespective of senior advocate, junior advocate, doesn't matter, is exempt. When I say senior advocate, it means some advocate who is having at least 10 or it's 15 years of standing and has been recognized as senior advocate. It's called senior advocate. Next one. Mr. A, an advocate, has represented on behalf of the state government in a legal proceeding. The service provided Mr. A is taxable. True, false cannot be determined. So you have to read the wordings very carefully. Legal services provided an advocate to a business entity is taxable. So is this point taxable or not? You should decide. Next one. Mr. A, a senior advocate, has represented on behalf of the state government in a legal proceeding. The service provided by Mr. A is taxable or not. Just instead of normal advocate, the senior advocate. See, except for the, as I told you, the experience difference and recognition difference, they will charge more fees naturally. And senior advocate is not allowed to directly represent the case. There has to be a junior advocate who has to brief the senior advocate. So there's a client, the client cannot directly approach the senior advocate. The junior advocate will only approach the senior advocate. The 10th question or the last question. Mr. A, who deals solely in supply of goods, has place of business in Tamil Nadu. Mr. B, an individual advocate, has provided legal services related to business of Mr. A. What is the aggregate turnover threshold limit for Mr. A so that the service provided is exempt? Service provided means the legal service provided is exempt. Now please note, Mr. A, who deals solely in supply of goods, has place of business in Tamil Nadu. So that's about it. The time is up. So I still have many people to answer. Whoever is there has to answer, of course. So only 33% of the people have answered. It will take another 1 minute. I want everybody to, it could be correct or wrong, it doesn't matter. But the point is, these are all, ways of, knowing the way the questions could be tested. This could be part of an MCQ based question, or it could be part of a bigger 9-mark question where they will ask 5-6 points and you'll be required to answer what is the taxable amount. So there you have to give reasons for every point. So we have 50% people who have answered. Any other answers? We will be now discussing the results immediately. And let us be assured that I am not going to, share the results of each person. Okay, so don't get worried about all those things. So you can pretty much answer it. Okay, you will know only the percentage, and you will not know who answered what. So don't worry about all those things. I want you to answer it. That's all. Anyway, I'm going to discuss the results, so you will know the percentage of points. Shall we proceed with the answers? I still have only 66% answered. Okay, so I wanted to just say that how this MCQ was. Was it tough, easy, or like, okay, I can manage? What's your view on this? Is it tough, easy, or standard, tricky? நான் ஒன்று கேட்டா நீங்க ஒன்று சொல்றாங்க. Tough, easy, mediocre கேட்டா tricky, standard. Okay, correct தான். Yes, so it's tricky, standard. Very good. Fine. Okay, so I have to thank, of course, okay, right. So of course, all these MCQs is, though I'm presenting here, it's all prepared by my teammates only. So that is thanks to Padma, Binaya. There are a few people, I mean, and of course, Kanmani and Shobita. So they helped my teammates. They only helped in designing all these things. Yeah. So let me launch the end of the polling now. So the time's up. So we have to move on. So the polling is over. We'll now share the results. Okay. I have got only 60% voting. So I think we need to vote more. Either people are just made it switched on and then they moved on to watch something else, or they have not answered it. Only two options are possible. So let me share the results now. Yeah. So I hope you are now seeing the results. The first question, I will anyway discuss the answers so that whether that is matching to this we can know. Which of the following services is exempt under healthcare services? 63% have answered chemist shop in the hospital selling medicines to public health plots. See, remember the chemist shop in the hospital is basically a separate business altogether. It's a pharmacy business. We have never told pharmacy business is exempt. Okay, and they are selling medicine to all. So if you go, let's say within a hospital, you go to one pharmacy, they are going to give you a bill. You can see GST will be very much charged. So that is not exempt. So what is exempt is only the food supplied by an outsourced canteen to inpatients as per the diet. This is what we specifically discussed this point. So you can also follow these direct approach. Here the direct approaches, we discuss this point directly. So option B is the correct answer. Okay. We move on to the second question. Hospital charges the patients, say rupees 10,000 and pays to the consultants rupees 7,500 and keeps the balance. Now, will the GST be applicable on the retention money on the 2,500? Is it liable? That's the question. 88% said it is exempt. The answer is yes, it is exempt. There is no tax. The moment the hospital, what it says, is it for a healthcare service? Yes. Is it collected by a clinical establishment? Yes. Is it for disease treat, etc., etc.? Yes, exempt. Simple. That's all. That's about it. So it is exempt, not taxable. So next question, which healthcare service is not exempt? That's the next question which is asked. Which healthcare services is not exempt? Cosmetic surgery of accident victims is exempt. Cosmetic surgery to restore anatomy is exempt because that's basically reconstruction of body parts. Hair transplantation is part of the plastic or cosmetic surgery. So that is taxable. Hair transplantation is typically nothing but a plastic surgery or it's a cosmetic surgery only. It's treated as a cosmetic surgery. It is taxable. Which means it is not exempt. Lip treatment of newborn baby is basically, of course, it is a cosmetic surgery, but as I told you, for trauma or injury or birth defects, it is exempt. So newborn baby is newborn baby. So of course, I don't think nobody will do it for cosmetic purposes, but rather it will be primarily for assumptions, it will be only for the trauma or injury. So that is also exempt. So the answer is C is the answer. Which of the following services related to recognized health is not exempted? The option is food to others, straightforward. Ambulance services, we have straight away told. Basha is what we told. B-A-S-H-A-R. A is ambulance. Straight away exempt. Whoever does that A is exempt. We don't bother about who does that. So answer is food to others. So that's very correct. We have given 3 points. We have asked which of these are exempt. Okay. So many people, okay, we have got a very, very mixed answer for this question. So it's almost equal or close to equal. Many people have answered. Chronic healing chronic healing treatments is taxable. Okay, let us be clear. It is taxable. Okay, what they have given is exempt or not. So it is taxable. So wherever one comes, it is gone. Wherever one comes, it is gone. So which means fourth option is out. It will not come because it's not a recognized medicine system. Mortuary services. Okay, that is also considered as part of the healthcare service only. That's also done by a hospital. That is also by a registered establishment only, and it is also part of the health. When you say care, mortuary is also covered. So don't think it's only for alive people. Care has to be done. Dead people also will do. So that is covered. That is also exempt only. When you say mortuary, it could also be treated as an ambulance service. Okay. So the next point, plastic surgery to restore anatomy, that is also exempt. So the option is 2 and 3 are the correct answer. So 3 alone is exempt, one person has answered. So 2 and 3 is the correct answer. So we got a mixed approach. Chronic healing treatments is taxable. I believe people have misread the question in my view. Okay. Next one. Mr. A and Associates is a legal firm, has place of business in Tamil Nadu. Mr. B, a senior advocate, has provided legal services to Ms. A and Associates. As I told you, advocate to advocate services is exempt. No limit, always exempt. So this I may say give a clue. So that's straight away answer is there. Seventh question. Okay. The question is, Mr. A appoints Mr. B, senior advocate, in relation to his divorce case. Determine his taxability of service provided by Mr. B. So again, it's an advocate to advocate service. Anyway, it's exempt, but it's a divorce case. Okay. One more interesting point, because it's a divorce case, there's no business entity, technically speaking. Ultimately, there's no business entity. But having said that, it is services by one advocate to another advocate. That's how you have to view. So it will be treated as exempt. We cannot say not taxable. It will be treated as exempt. Exempt is the correct answer. There is a difference between exemption and not taxability. Exempt means it is within the law, but given specific notification exemption. Not taxable is only 5+1, which is petrol, petroleum products, and you have alcohol. Only they are non-taxable. Everything else will be treated as exempt. The option is, though here we have highlighted both, the correct answer is exempt is the correct answer. Next one, Mr. A, an advocate, has represented on behalf of the state government in a legal proceeding. The service provided Mr. A is taxable or not. So some people have said true, some people have said false. Mixed response. So the answer is false is the correct option. Central government, state government is also not treated as a business entity. So that is also exempt. Okay, so central government, state government is also exempt if they receive legal services. So the next point also is false only. So the answer is false. Services provided to a central or state government is also exempt. The last point, it's a very clear point. It says Mr. A who deals in supply of goods is what they told. So if they deal in supply of goods, then naturally it means they have a threshold limit of 40 lakhs. So here the question they have asked is, what is the aggregate turnover threshold for Mr. A so that the service provider is exempt? The answer is 40 lakhs is the correct answer. So option C is the correct answer. So this is about the polling. So those who have got this right, you can give a pat to yourself. Those who have not made it, you can just still you can unmute yourself and ask Bhumija. I think Bhumija, raise your hands. So if you have doubts, you can unmute yourself and ask. Okay, fine. Right. So any doubts on these points, you can very much ask. You can unmute yourself and ask also. So all this is how typically the exam questions would be asked. Just that an exam, it will be a 5-mark question based on the test. So we have now seen BASHAR plus R, the legal services, then food, shelter, road, garden, government. Food, shelter, road, garden, government. This is what we have seen as the third industry. So we have effectively seen about 25 exemptions. Now we move on to the next exemption, which is related to financial services. That's the next part we will discuss. Financial services. Financial services basically related to banking and insurance. We have 10 exemptions under this totally, and we have given an acronym, but it's not an acronym, but rather it's like a statement. It might look, I repeat, a little awkward, but I believe this is what you will remember in the long run a little easily. So why financial sector? You have to remember the context. The government wants to encourage digital banking. Number one, that's the context. The government wants to encourage digital banking. Urban people will anyway will do digital banking, so they want more of rural people to do that. That's the first context. Okay. The second one is the government wanted to give exemption for major cost. The government wanted to give exemptions. So basically the major cost for a company is basically interest cost. So they wanted to give exemptions. So broadly I said FDI is the first point. FDI is foreign direct investment. So you can remember this FDI. So to start with, FDI is the first point. FDI, it's a simple acronym to remember. So F represents forex transactions between two banks. For example, let's say there is one bank which is HDFC Bank. There is another bank which is Standard Chartered Bank. Okay. Now Standard Chartered Bank from USA sends money to HDFC Bank in India. So what our Standard Chartered Bank USA has appointed HDFC Bank in India as its agent. So what they will do when they transfer the foreign currency, they will charge some commission. Who will charge? HDFC will charge from Standard Chartered Bank. So it's basically a transaction happening between two banks, forex commission. So that is exempt. Or between, let's say, Western Union money transfer versus HDFC Bank, that is also exempt. Now, what was the amendment made here? Earlier, it was using the word scheduled banks. Now it's called only banks. So small amendment, but it has a very big impact. So the law earlier was using the word scheduled banks. It means scheduled bank means banks which are listed in the second schedule of the act. Whereas now just says banks. So earlier, regional rural banks, cooperative banks were not effectively covered under the definition of banks. Now they also will be covered because they just use the word banks. So forex commission on transactions between banks, Western Union money transfer like authorized dealer, one authorized dealer to bank, this is exempt. So this is F. D represents discount earned on bills exchanged. Discount on bills exchanged or bills discounted. So bills basically you have a purchase bill, you give it to your bank and you will get the money. So if 1000 rupees is the bill, the bank will give you only 950 rupees. The 50 rupees is the discount they will earn. On that discount, there is no GST. The third point, I repeat this, when you say discount earned on bills discounted is with the bank, not with any third party. The third part is interest on loans and FDI, interest on loans and advances is also exempt. But here they said credit card interest alone is taxable, all other interest is exempt. Okay, so this is what they have told in this case. Now, the next question which people ask or doubt is, sir, interest is exempt, okay. Now, let's say I did not pay the interest for 2 months. So, bank will charge penal interest. The normal interest is about 9%. The penal interest will be at 15%. Whether penal interest is taxable or exempt, what is your view? Can you put yes or no? Yes means yes taxable, no exempt. Penal interest for delayed payment of loan. For example, let's say my EMI date is 5th of every month. If I delay my EMI bounced, they will charge me additional interest. Whether the additional interest or we call penal interest, would it be liable for GST or not? That's the question. You can say yes taxable or no exempt. No, not taxable, there is no supply. Okay. Okay, there is a supply in the sense there is a supply because they have given you loan and the loan earns interest. So the interest is the consideration for giving the loan. The bank is allowing you to use the loan. Yes, no exempt. Yes, got. So we got only 3-4 answers. I want more people to answer so that I don't sleep now. No, it is exempt. Yes, on loan. No. Fine. So the answer is there is a clarification the government has given on this point. It says penal interest for delayed payment of loans is also treated only as an interest on loan. It means it is also exempt. See, please don't use the word not taxable. When you use the word not taxable, it's completely outside the GST scope. But here, penal interest is not outside the GST scope, but rather there's a specific exemption. So interest earned on loan includes penal interest also is the word we have to understand. So this is also exempt from GST. Penal interest is also covered. This is what typically they focus in the exam. So the first 3 points is quite clear. FDI, you can understand. Forex transactions between banks. D is discounting earned on bills discounted. I is interest earned. FDI. So it's quite simple. Next, as I told you the context, the government wants more people to have the bank accounts. So government had one scheme called Jan Dhan Yojana, okay, where they allowed many people to open in post office. They allowed people to rural areas. Many people are not having accounts, so they allowed them to open. So that's called Prime Minister Jan Dhan Yojana. So savings banks, they allowed open small 0 balance savings bank, simple savings bank account they have to open using Aadhaar. So that Jan Dhan Yojana, whatever bank account is there, for that sometimes the bank will levy bank charges for using check. Check bouncing may happen. So for those things they will put charges. For that charges there is no GST, is what they are saying. Charges will not be there is not the point. Charges will be there, but on that there's no GST is what the government notified. Okay, so this is basically to encourage rural banking. So this is one segment. One more thing is they want to encourage more of digital banking. So what they did, if you are paying through debit card or credit card and the transaction value is less than or equal to 2000 rupees, whatever service charges on that, no GST will apply. Okay, let me again reply. For example, let's say you go to Flipkart and you're ordering cloth worth about 1000 rupees. Okay, you are paying it through online. So the 1000 rupees is the settlement value. On that 1000 rupees, your banker is say charging 50 rupees as their example only, 50 rupees as their banking charges. On that banking charges, there is no GST, is what they are saying. Okay, not on the 1000 rupees. 1000 rupees you are paying to the seller of the cloth. That will have GST. The payment is happening through the bank, and the bank charges certain bank charges for it, transaction charges for it, and that does not attract GST because the settlement value is less than or equal to 2000. Let us be very clear on this point. So this is again digital banks. I told you the context. Digital banking is what is the idea. And then the next point is there are certain specific exemptions given. We had one client who happens to be a public sector enterprise. Okay, let's take the example of Tamil Nadu State Marketing Corporation. Okay, Tamil Nadu State Marketing Corporation is a public sector enterprise. It looks very professional, but if I shrink it into a simpler form, you will feel a little awkward. TASMAC is the acronym for it. Or let's take the example of Metropolitan Transport Corporation, Tamil Nadu Metropolitan Transport Corporation. Now they take a lot of loans, they take a lot of deposits, okay, FD, from whom they'll take a lot of banks, and they also take it from public. Tamil Nadu Power Corporation, Tamil Nadu Power Finance Corporation, they take deposits from public and they pay interest. Now all these deposits are guaranteed by Tamil Nadu government. That's why people buy. Okay. Now because it is guaranteed by Tamil Nadu government will charge some guarantee commission from these corporations. Okay, so that guarantee commission does not have GST. We had one specific issue in service tax. So in GST, they gave an exemption for this particular point. So this is basically guarantee commission, which is paid to central government or state government by a public sector enterprise is exempt. So my example is very clear. Tamil Nadu Power Sector Finance Corporation gets guarantee from central government or state government. So for which the state government will charge guarantee charges from the corporation. That does not have GST. The government issued a lot of notices prior to GST. Now they have rectified it. Okay. And then few specific points, insurance premiums paid by, for example, let's say you are a central government employee. Then in which case you have certain CGHS cover. Central government health scheme is there, where you are allowed to get about some particular amount free of cost. So they are all covered by insurance premium. So whatever insurance premium paid by central government, state government, no GST for the same. And the last 2 points is a very, very specific points. The government, as we said, wants to encourage more of rural banking. Okay. Now how they will encourage rural banking? It's not possible that every place the bank will have a branch. Sometimes they have to operate through mobile bankers. Now what is called mobile banker? He will be some shop, a normal kirana wall. Now that fellow will also operate like a bank. Let's say Equitas bank is there. So they will operate as Equitas bank in that place. So he's like a mobile ATM. He himself will take the check and give cash. So that's called, it became very popular during the demonetization scheme. So they are called as banking correspondents is the word we use. And you would have seen a lot of websites online called Bank Bazaar, or you would have seen about Credit Mantri, Equifax, like that. So many people who say that they'll give a better loan, etc. They are called banking facilitators. Like they will help you to take loan from various banks. So these banking correspondents and banking facilitators will work as like an agent of the bank, and they charge commission from the bank. So for that commission, there is no GST, provided they operate in rural area. Provided you can see here, it is related to the rural bank accounts. There is no GST. So basically all these intentions make it clear the government wants to encourage more of rural banking, and they are giving exemption for all these points. So banking correspondents, and banking business facilitators is the word we use. BFS, business facilitators. Basically, they act as agents of the banks in procurement of more of loans. So to banking and insurance companies have been given an exemption. So this is about banking sectors. And finally, there is something called IFSC, International Financial Service Center. It's like uh, you would have heard something called special economic zones. And all these SEZs, they're called a foreign. It's like a bank set up in SEZ. In the simplistic way, it's a bank which is set up in a special economic zone. So whatever charges they have, there is no GST for the same. So this is what effectively, maybe now we will go through that point. FDI in PSU, FDI is very clear. In PSU is basically public sector undertaking. We saw that point, guarantee charges through IFSC, guaranteed by the government insurance, digi banking in rural area, facilitated by correspondents. Okay, this is all the acronyms, but again, you can straight away remember it. The key points here is FDI. That's what you are supposed to remember it clearly. So FDI, digi banking, rural banking. These are the context in which you have to remember these exemptions. So FDI, digi banking, and rural banking exemptions have been given for the same. So this is about FDI. Any doubts on this point you can now put forward? Any specific doubts on this point on banking services? Okay, somebody was asking the question, sir, bank gives us a loan and they are charging processing charges. Would that be liable for GST or is it exempt? Processing charges, would it be liable or exempt? What is your answer? Okay, so there is no exemption. It is taxable because there is it's not covered in the exemption list. What is covered is only the interest part. Okay, let's say check bouncing charges they are collecting. It is taxable, no exemption. Online charges only up to 2,000 rupees settlement value is exempt. Otherwise, it is taxable. So you can see exemptions and taxability for this sector. Okay, we move on to the next point. After this, we will have some small poll to ensure that we don't sleep. So the last part, we will the associations. Again, associations, what they say is, let's take our business associations. Let's say there's something called Ambattur Industrial Estate Manufacturer Association. So what this association does, they collect membership fees from various members, and what they will do with that money, they will use it for their administrative purposes. They will make representations to the government. They will run their operations, basically clubs. So all these things collect money from the members and use it for the members. But the government says it is taxable. Association and its members are two different persons, and whatever the association pays will be liable for GST. Simple. That's what the context says. However, in this context, they have given exemption for three types of collections. They have given one. Trade union is also collecting money from various workers. Government says no GST for them. If you touch them, entire in India will stop. So they said no exemptions for trade unions. So whatever trade union collects would be liable for GST. Number one. Second, let's say you are in a club. Okay, the club is collecting about say 300 rupees for doing a health camp. Now health is already exempt. Health services is already exempt. Whatever you collect for providing that services is also exempt. So collections for providing an exempt service is also exempt. That's a very simple point. Let's say you are part of your housing flat association. They are conducting a musical event. Up to 500 rupees musical event is exempt. So if they are collecting, let's say 200 rupees, no taxability, because anyway that service is exempt. Last point is an important point. A lot of amendments have gone through, a lot of confusion is there. Most of you might be living in a flat, and in a flat what they do, they collect maintenance charges. Like per month they'll collect 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees, whatever number, they collect it. The government says that is taxable, sir. That is taxable, first point. However, if the amount doesn't cross 7,500 per month per member, it is exempt. It's per month per member. It's repeated twice. So it's per month per member. If it is not crossing 7,500 rupees, it is exempt. More than 7,500 rupees, it is taxable. Okay. Now the next question is, how much is taxable? Let's say per month per member, the maintenance fee is about 10,000. How much is taxable? Government says entire 10,000 is taxable, not the excess amount. Entire 10,000 is taxable. This is circular. I repeat, practically we will be disputing all these points. But for your examination perspective, you have to understand from the point of your exam. There's a circular, so you have to go by the circular. Circular says if you are crossing the 10,000, 7,500, entire number is taxable. That's what the CBIC circular says. You can see it here. Now the next point, let's say the same person owns 2-3 flats. Okay, then and each of them is paying 3,000 rupees. What is your answer? For example, let's say person A owns 3 flats, and for flat A is paying 3,000, flat B is paying 3,000, and flat C also is paying 3,000. If you add all the 3 put together, it is crossing 7,500. Should he pay GST or not? Should that be liable for GST or not? What's your answer? So same person owns 3 flats. So per month per member is what we told. Per month per member is what we told. So would he be considered as single member or 3 members for the purpose of calculating this? Because individually is per flat wise, it's less than 7,500. If it's considered as a single member, then it means as a single member, it goes up to 9,000 rupees. The answer was correct from Mr. Ravi. The answer is correct, but again, it should be treated as 3 different members. So there is a circular clarification. Again, the same circular says if multiple flats owned by same person, he is considered as multiple persons for the purpose of exemption. Okay, so correct. So in which case he will be treated as 3 different persons. No GST would be applicable for the same. So this is a clarification. It's not necessarily 2 different members, multiple members. 2 flats means 2 members, 3 means 3. So that's how we need to understand for association. All other services of association or collections is taxable. So one of our client is an association. They ask this question, sir, we have a gym in our association, and we are about 1,000 flats in our association, but only 50 people are using the gym, and we are collecting maintenance fees from them for the gym. They were asking whether it is taxable or not, and they are collecting only 1,000 rupees, not 7,500. They just collecting 1,000 rupees per month per the gym member. Is it taxable or exempt? What's your answer? Taxable. Okay. But is it not covered under the exemption of 7,500 rupees? Because we have 7,500 rupees exemption. Would that not cover this situation, gym as such? So the answer is, if you see the wordings in the law, it says Resident Welfare Association up to 7,500 per month per member for sourcing goods or services in third person for the common use of all. When we say common use, it represents the common use of all the members and not identified members. So if it is an identified facility given to select set of members, it would be not having this exemption of 7,500. It means entire amount would be taxable. What we are looking at is exemption. It won't be covered under the common facility usage. So the entire amount would be liable for GST. This is what we have to be clear about. Okay. So this is about the associations. So what we will do is let's have the next poll. Then we will move forward. Just I'll take another few minutes and then we will close the sessions after this poll. One more education area is there. Then we'll discuss that and close the poll. So I think I have to stop this. Now the next poll. Yeah. So I'm going to launch the next poll. This is more related to renting of immovable property and financial services. So I'll just launch the poll. Here it goes. It starts now. So you can now start answering it. The first question, Mr. A is a registered person under GST. He has 10 residential units. He lets out 9 units for residential usage and 1 unit for commercial purpose. He charges rupees 20,000 rupees per month per unit. Determine the taxability of service supplied by Mr. A. Both A and B are taxable. Only A is taxable, only B is taxable. Both A and B are exempt. So I'm sure you would have answered this by now. Next question. Mr. A is a registered person under GST. He has a residential property. He lets out to be limited for commercial purpose. I repeat, residential property but given for commercial purpose. Determine the taxability of service supplied by Mr. A. Taxable, exempt, cannot ascertain, none of the above. Option 3. So question 3. Mr. A is a registered person under GST. He has a residential property. He lets it out to Mrs. B and Associates. Mrs. B and Associates is unregistered person under GST but uses the property for commercial purpose. Determine the taxability of service supplied. See, cannot ascertain, maybe at your level you cannot ascertain. But if something cannot be ascertained as such at all, then only you have to choose that answer. If you cannot ascertain, don't choose cannot ascertain. The next question. ISKCON is a religious trust registered under 12AA of the Income Tax Act 1961. It lets out rooms to devotees for which it charges rent of rupees 800 per day. Determine the taxability of the service supplied by ISKCON. Next question, fifth one. Mr. A is a registered person under GST. He has a residential property. He lets it out to Mr. B, who is also a registered person under GST for residential purpose. I repeat, A is registered. He has a residential property. He lets it out to B, who is also a registered person in GST, but for residential purpose. Determine the taxability of service supplied by Mr. A. This is a very quite often tricky question. In fact, reality, we have faced a lot of show cause notices on this point. What happens, I give you example of background is, I am an individual, I own a property. This property will be given to a company, okay, company on rent. But who will use the property? Company's director will stay in the property for his or her residential purpose. That's the example which is given. So I am letting out to a business, but the business is giving it, or I would say business is using it for residential status of their employees. So how they will apply? We had one client who owned a very big apartment. They constructed a big apartment. They gave it to a company, but for allowing their employees to stay there as their residence, like quarters, employee quarters. How that will be treated? Next question. Charges for using bank debit credit card while making payment are exempt if the settlement amount is up to. This we have specifically discussed now. Money exchange between cooperative bank and authorized dealers. Is it exempt, taxable, partially exempt? I've given even discussed this specific point. Interest received from credit card services is, see all these things are looked at from the angle of the service provider, okay, not from our angle, from service provider angle. Interest received on, okay, it's a very interesting point. I have not specifically discussed this, but anyways, let's have the answers on the question number 9. Interest received on reverse repo transactions are taxable. So this requires a little bit of background of your economics from your CPT or from your 12th standard. Reverse repo transaction means what? You should know. And then based on that, you should decide. Interest received on reverse repo transactions. Last question. ANX bank charged the following on a loan given to X. Service fee rupees 5,000. Documentation fees 10,000. Interest on loan 5,500. What will be the amount chargeable to GST? Interest on loan, documentation fees, service fees. Perfect. So that's about it. 10 questions. I want quickly every one of you to participate. It's just a simple question. Do not worry about whether it is correct or wrong. Just answer it. Okay? You have to answer it a little faster so that I can move on to the next segment. So we have 50% people answered, 50% still, 70%. Still there are a few people who have not answered it. I request everybody to participate so that it doesn't matter whether it's correct or wrong. Is the question visible to all? So let's move on now. So I think for some time there's no movement now. So I'll just end the poll. We'll discuss the answers. Yes, that's about it. So the first question, Mr. A is a registered person under GST, has 10 residential units. He lets out 9 units for residential, 1 unit for commercial. So that, okay, we have got a mixed response. 44% said both A and B are taxable. 56% said only B is taxable. Okay, I think we might have got confused because of this example which we told. I have not shared the results yet, sorry. Yeah, I'm now sharing the results. We might have got confused because of the example I told, where I told there was a question which was asked by Dinesh. He asked that what if the same house, now note the word, what if the same house is used for commercial or residential purpose? Only then we said it will be taxable. Okay. Now it's not same house. Yes, 9, 10 residential, all are independent, different houses. So in that, if 9 is residential, 1 is commercial, then in which case, whatever that 1, only that is taxable. The other 9 are exempt. They are independent. What is the example or question that was asked is the same one house is used for both. Then it will be taxable fully. So the answer is both. We'll have only B is taxable. Only 1 unit is taxable. He could be a registered person, but so long it is for residential purpose, only B is taxable. If you have any doubts, please unmute yourself and ask so that you can get it clarified. Next one. A is a registered person under GST. He has a residential property. He lets it out to be limited for commercial purpose. Determine the taxability of service supplied by Mr. A. So in this case, we have got 100% correct answer. It is taxable. Residential property only, but given for commercial purpose, taxable. It should be residential property for residential purpose. Next one. A is a registered person. He has residential property. He gave it to B and Associates. B and Associates is unregistered under GST, but uses the property for commercial purpose. Perfect. Taxable. Correct. ISKCON is a religious trust. 100% people have got the correct answer. It's less than ₹1,000 per day. So it is exempt. Okay. And then next one. A is a registered person under GST. We got a little divided answer, but majority has answered as exempt. Okay. Now, please note what the law says. Residential dwelling given for residential purpose. They never use what should be the status of the recipient of the service. The service recipient could be a business, does not matter. But the purpose is residential, it is exempt. So in my example, as I told you, company might take it on rent. But if it is given for their staff quarters, the purpose is residential, so it will be exempt. The answer is exempt is the answer. Next, debit card charges 2,000 rupees is the answer. 5,000 rupees was not discussed in our options. Next one, between bank and dealers. I told you cooperative bank is also a bank only. So bank and authorized dealers. What we asked is money exchange between bank and authorized dealers is exempt. Simple. We told between bank and bank, between bank and authorized dealers, between dealers and dealers. Everything is exempt. Next one, interest received from credit card service is taxable. We specifically saw this point, it is taxable. Interest received on reverse repo. See, this is also nothing but a loan transaction happening between RBI and banks. Okay, so that is also nothing but a loan only. So that is also considered as an interest on loan. It is exempt. It doesn't matter who, between whom and whom. So long it is an interest, so long it is a loan, it is exempt. Let me also clarify that loan can be given even by a private party. That is also interest. For example, if I am giving loan to you and I am collecting interest for it, that is also exempt because they never qualify it should be a bank. It should be a loan for which we are receiving interest. Simple. Okay. The last point, the taxable amount we have asked, the answer is 15,000 rupees is the correct answer. Interest on loan, they are asked what is the amount chargeable. Interest on loan is not chargeable to GST. Only service fee and documentation fee would be taxable under GST. So the answer is 15,000 rupees. That's about it. So with this, we are done with the second poll now. So I hope you have a little clarity on what we are discussing. If you're having clarity, you can put yes, so that I will have clarity that you are having clarity. Okay. So that's about associations. We have associations. We are ready to have some questions. So we will now move on to the last part of today's discussion. So I don't want to dump you with too much of discussions, but again, as I told you, we are going to finish a 50% of it. The next 50% we'll keep it for another session. Okay. Now we move on to the next services called education. So the association is over. We move on to education. Okay. See, you can see one of the top demanding, highly demanded businesses presently is education and healthcare. And you can see healthcare is exempt. Same way, education is also given a lot of exemptions. So broadly, we will be grouping it into multiple categories. So we will just broadly group it and then we will discuss based on this. Okay. So we have just grouped the education into 3 categories. Number 1, services provided by an educational institution like school, college. So where and all they provide education. So let's say a child is born. Okay. So we have to start effectively from there. From there, the gyan, learning, advice, everything starts. So after 1.5 years, what is the first? You can put it in the chat box. You all must be now aware of all these things. After 1.5 to 2.5 years, what is the first place the child will be going to? Let's go one by one. Let's take it one by one. You can put it in the chat box. What is the school between 1.5 to 2.5 years? Pre-KG. Okay. 1.5 to 2.5 pre-KG put. So maybe I was not aware. Okay. So I think they go only for play school, my understanding. Pre-KG is okay, a little later. Okay, fine, no problem. So first it starts with play school. Okay, now play school. What they do in play school? Just a very simple thing. Mothers or fathers, whoever, parents are not able to manage, they give it to the play school to manage. Simple. So play school, whatever fees they are collecting, daycare, you can call it also daycare. So play school, they collect fees. Okay. Then after that, it goes to preschool. That's called as pre-KG. And then school starts from LKG to 12th standard. This is a school. Then after school, the person goes to the college. And then he may go for a higher degree, maybe university. He may go to a university, college, university, all these stuffs. Sometimes what will happen after 10th standard, some people will be taking a different direction, like ITI, you would have seen technical courses, technical education, we call it, or vocational courses some people will take. For example, vocational courses could be some tailoring or something life skill based courses which helps in immediate job employment, stenograph, that is typing, or it could be leather related. So specific training, vocational courses which helps a person employable, polytechnic, and yeah. So all these things are the categories. So these are the list we are having, simple. And after that you have higher educations like IIT, IIM, all these guys are also there. Okay. Now what the government says is, let's play school is taxable. Okay, play school like daycare, whatever they are charging is taxable. So next time when you go to your daycare or play school, not you, so you're sending somebody to that, check whether they're putting GST on that. Of course, only if they cross 20 lakhs. The second one, from pre-KG to 12th standard is whatever fees they collect is exempt. So that is what is mentioned under by EDU, by educational institution is what we mean. So what the government says, any service provided by a preschool, not it starts from preschool, any service provided by a preschool up to university or even higher education within India. Remember, it's within India. Outside India, if it goes, that's not covered here. Only within India is covered because it has to be recognized under the law for the time being enforced. We have a lot of presently we are arguing a lot of cases also on this point. But anyways, to discuss this specifically, it says within India there is a course you are pursuing which is between preschool to college, university, etc. Whatever fees collected for any service provided to students, staff, faculty are exempt. It's quite clear. Students, staff, faculty are exempt. Whatever services, let's be very clear. They never said only tuition services exempt or education services covered. They said any service provided by an education institution to its students, staff, and faculty is exempt. That means what? Let's say for the student to reach the school, what is the first thing they will do? In fact, nowadays, a lot of schools, they also provide food. That is also exempt because that's also a service provided to a student. So the qualification is not with respect to the nature of service. The qualification is with respect to the nature of service provider, not with the service. So he could provide transport, bus facility they may arrange, they may take you for excursion, they may take you for the food they may supply. Everything is exempt, provided it is given by an education institution to the students, staff or faculty. So one problem came up. What happened? Many of these schools, they conduct entrance. Nowadays, getting a LKG seat or pre-KG seat is the most difficult thing. Even you can get an IAS seat or IPS seat, right? Scoring or it's quite easy. The most challenging part is getting an LKG seat. Now they conduct a lot of these exams, entrance exam, for which they collect entrance exam fees, 1,000 rupees. Issue came up. What is the issue came up? Sir, all these entrance exam fees are collecting. They are not students. What the government said, only for students it is exempt. So when I am collecting exam fees, entrance exam fees, they are not students. They are never enrolled as our students. They become students only after they are taken in. So entrance exam fees, they gave a separate exemption. That's all. So this make it very clear. So entrance exam fees to any person, of course. And then any other services to students, staff and faculty is exempt. Okay. Now one question came up from our client. So he's an education institution, he's a college. So they are conducting a lot of placement programs. So they invite, even you take CA Institute. CA Institute is conducting a lot of placement programs. Now this CA Institute collects fees from the employers, the potential possible employers, to pay some fees for conducting these placement courses. What do you think? Whether the placement fees which they are collecting, is it taxable or exempt? You can put your answer in the chat box. Is it taxable or exempt? Placement fees they collect, is it taxable or exempt? So Guru Priyan has answered it's taxable. Ravichandran has answered it's exempt. Okay, from whom they collect placement fees? Let's be very clear. They collect placement fees from the employers, not from the students. You never pay placement fee. Only the the guys who are coming for recruitment, they pay the placement fees. So the answer is it is taxable because it is not a service provided to student, staff or faculty. Basically, we are collecting placement fees from those companies. So services provided to those companies by arranging potential candidates. So that is taxable, number one. Another question which was asked quite often, CA Institute. Let's take CA Institute. Now the CA Institute is conducting a lot of courses also. The CA Institute also collects, your registration fees, like you are enrolling for CPT, IPCC final. They are collecting registration fees. Would that be taxable or exempt? What is your answer? Would that be taxable or exempt? By the way, CA Institute is also considered like a higher degree only, like a approved institute. So would that be taxable or exempt? The answer is exempt. Say simple, because without which you cannot get the degree. Without paying the registration fees, you cannot get the degree. Okay. CA Institute also conducts, you could have seen, CA Institute also conducts lot of classes. They conduct 5,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees. They collect fees from students and they conduct, and it's not compulsory you should attend those classes. It's optional. What about those fees? Is it taxable or exempt? I repeat, it's not compulsory to attend. If you want, you can attend it. So what do you think? Would that be taxable or exempt? The fees collected by the CA Institute for conducting their courses, would it be taxable or exempt? Also exempt. Okay, exempt. Fine. So next time when you go to the CA Institute, you would have seen the board, advertisement board. Just check whether they are putting plus GST or not. And also when you are paying the fees, check whether you are paying GST for that or not. I'm not talking about the registration fees which you are going to pay. I'm talking about the commercial classes, I mean the coaching classes which CA Institute takes. The answer is it is presently it is considered as taxable. Why it is taxable, sir? Because when we say an educational institution and when we say it's a service, educational service, it means any service which provided by an educational institution leading to a degree recognized under the law. Okay. Now, what you pay as registration fees is necessary for you to get the degree, which is CA degree, which is recognized under the ICA Act. However, the commercial classes which you are paying is not compulsory to get the degree. Even without that, you can appear for the exams, and without that you can get the degree. So whatever you are paying as education fees to the CA Institute is like a commercial, just like how you are paying commercial fees to any other tuition center or any other academy, same way you are paying that fees to the CA Institute. That's all. It is not compulsory that you should attend those classes to get the degree. So it is not a part of the curriculum to get the degree. Hence, it is taxable. It means what? You have to go through 11th standard to get to 12th standard. That is part of the curriculum. So whatever fees you pay is exempt. However, what you pay to the CA Institute for those classes is purely optional, and hence there is no need to pay GST. I mean, there is a need to pay GST on the same. It is not considered as an approved educational institution to that extent. Okay, this is what we wanted to convey here. So this is about any service provided by education institution. Other than that, the government conducts a lot of skill development programs. So you can just simply remember, you keep seeing any Jawaharlal Nehru skill development program, or it's very simple. Congress government uses the word Jawaharlal Nehru, Rajiv Gandhi, Indira Gandhi, etc. BJP government uses the word most other people, Vallabhbhai Patel, Deen Dayal Upadhyay, Atal Bihari Vajpayee. So they use these names. That's the only difference. The moment you keep seeing these names with certain schemes are attached to that, you can to some extent assume that they are all exempt from GST. So the government says these three specific training programs are exempt from GST. Other than these are not authorized educational points. It's called NSDC. For example, National Skill Development Corporation. For example, you could have seen a lot of these institutes conducting nursing programs. They are not colleges. There could be nursing colleges, but they just conduct a short 6 months, 9 months nursing programs. It is exempt from GST. The SSC means central, NSDC is national level. State Skill Development Corporation is state level. They have training centers, assessment agencies, everything is exempt. For example, training in accounting can be a skill development program. This is approved by the National Council. Second one, Director General of Training, Deen Dayal Upadhyay. You can just see the name. As I told you, all these things is quite difficult to immediately remember it. But the moment you see these names, it will sound to you that you have to give exemption for the same. The last point is what we saw here is by education institution, then by any other government approved trainings. Then two, what services provided to an education institution. For that also there is an exemption. So if an education institution is a service receiver, they have given an exemption for this also. Okay, sir. Very simple way to understand. You have to understand this start to end services. Okay, very simple, easy to understand. First thing is, let's say somebody has a child. Okay, now what they will do? The child is born. Play school is over. We said it's taxable. Then they join the preschool. Preschool, they don't conduct any exams and all. Normally they will admit it. So, or some schools, they do conduct examinations for preschool also. So first thing what they do before taking some child into the school, sometimes they conduct examination. Okay. So, or first they have to admit the students. Okay. They may conduct examinations, etc. So first is admission. So this admission may be given to a third party to manage. Some of the schools, they will not have their own software. They will not have their own bandwidth, so they will outsource some agency. They will do that. So admission services provided to the school is exempt. So after admission, what is the next thing they will do? The child has to come to the school. So the child is admitted to the school. Then next step is he or she has to come to the school. So how they will come to the school? Transport. So transport services provided to the school is exempt. The child has to come safe. Okay, nowadays there's a lot of issues. So security agency services to the school is exempt. And then the child has now reached the school, he or she is inside. Then what they will do, they may take some examinations. So examination services provided to the school is exempt. I have one of my known friends who conducts the examination for the CA Institute. Like he only gives all the, the papers, the dummy numbers, everything is decided by him. And then the CA Institute conducts it. Like it's an outsourced party of CA Institute. So whatever services provided to him is example for this. So this is the fourth point, examination. After examination, what the child will do, their lunch break will come, so they will eat. So catering services provided to the school is exempt. After eating, there will be a lot of dirt, so they will clean. Housekeeping services provided to the school is exempt. That's all. So we can see the logic easily. So first thing is a child is admitted, so admission services to the school. Admission services provided by a third party to the school is exempt. After the child will start coming to the school, so transport services, they have to come safe, security services, Then they will conduct the exams, so examination services, and then they will have food catering services. After food, they will go back home, so transport services. Oh, sorry, they will have to clean the place, housekeeping services are exempt from GST. But to whom? If you keep saying, I kept on insisting only one thing: school, school, and school. So all these services provided to a school are exempt. That's what the government says. So the government says you have exemption for, you can see here the same thing only: admission, transport, security agency, exams, catering, housekeeping. So all these 6 services provided to a preschool or school only are exempt. The same thing is provided to, I told you one of my friend is providing to CA Institute, taxable. Same thing is provided to a college, it is taxable. A recent amendment they made is this transport services, as I told you, given by third party. Sometimes this fellow will not own the vehicle. He would have taken that on rent from some other fellow. That renting a vehicle to such transporter is also vehicle. That's amendment made now for your examinations. So this is about school related services. One extra point, only for colleges and universities they are given exemption for online education journals, and periodicals have been given exemption for colleges and universities. So that's only for colleges. That's about it. So this is about education services. So we can say 3 segments: by education institution, and then government training institutes, then 2 education institutions. This covers the entire segment, and it's quite easy to know. This covers close to about 8 to 10 amendments in one single map. This is covered. Okay, so I'll just close this part. This is about education. So let me close this today with the last poll for the day. So I don't want to take too much of your time. So we have exactly that time to close it. So we will now go back to the last poll. So this poll covers association services and education, which we saw finally. So these 2 are covered as part of this. So you have exactly about 5 minutes to answer. I want everybody to participate. The time starts now. Yeah. So it's now visible on your screen. You can answer it. AFX is an NGO which has collected rupees 8,000 per month as maintenance charges from 400 members and rupees 2,000 per month from 200 members. What will be the taxable value under GST? It's a very, very, very technical question. It's not even a technical, it just requires a little more careful analysis of the law. We did discuss this point. Let me also show you for your reference what is that you want to know. You can see in the screen. The second question, AFX is an NGO which has collected gym access fees of rupees 2,000 per month from 300 members. What will be the taxable value under GST? Okay, I repeat, whatever numbers they have given here is annualized numbers. For 12 months they have given. Okay, so that is 300 into 2000 into 12. So that's how they have given. So to clarify the numbers. The third question, services provided by an NGO involved in industrial welfare to its own members. For NGO means non-government organization. For consideration in the form of membership fees, up to dash is exempt. Actually, this point I need to cover. It comes in a separate segment. But anyways, point number 3, I'm yet to cover. You can just answer based on whatever you know. We will anyway discuss the answers. See, wherever they have mentioned the word NGO, please understand that as there's a slight clarification I had to give. Just take that as a resident welfare association. Just understand that as a resident welfare association. It's an association. So it's been wrongly worded as NGO, so it should be taken as resident welfare association. So number 4, ANX is an NGO, just correct as resident welfare association, which has collected shift in shift out charges of rupees 30,000 from its members. It means basically, some new fellow comes into the flat. Normally, what these old fellows will do is like they'll do some ragging and ask the fellow to pay some money so that they will allow the vehicle to go inside. Same way somebody is going outside, they will again do the same ragging, collect some money, etc. So all these stuffs. They collect some money for shift in, shift out. Next, service provided by again Resident Welfare Association to its own members by way of reimbursement of charges up to an amount of dash will be exempt. All these are resident welfare. Wherever is NGO, please correct it as Resident Welfare Association. The next point, what are the following services provided to an education institution or exempt from GST? It's a school. Transportation of staff of the school, cleaning of the school, services related to conduct of higher secondary exams, all of the above. To the school, all these services are provided. So you have to decide which one is exempt from GST. Number 7, services provided by education institution is exempted if the services are to any common man. So any service by any common man is exempt. Its own students, faculty or staff is exempt. Both A and B, none of the above. 8th question, which of the following services provided by IIM is not exempted? Okay, so IIM is also treated like an educational institution. So they are given exemption to for higher education about their programs in 5-year and 2 years. Courses are exempted. Executive development program is basically what they give for various business people. Okay. So I have just clarified that point. Anyway, we'll discuss it when you come to that answer. Which of the following educational services are taxable? Private tuitions, foreign university, coaching classes, all of the above. Last question, determine the following services provided by XYZ Limited to an educational institution are exempt. Conducting modular employable skill course approved by Vocational Institute. I discussed this point. Fees from prospective employers for campus. Both are exempted, both are taxable. One is exempt, 2 is taxable. One is taxable, 2 is exempt. That's about it. There are about 10 questions. So today we have discussed about 30 questions now. In addition to that, we have discussed about 30 plus, easily 40 plus amendments have been discussed. Shall we discuss the answers? Shall I proceed? So we have only 5 people, 28% answered, 4 only, sorry. %. We'll quickly discuss it and close for today. So only 40% is answered. I just want everybody else to quickly respond. Another 30 seconds, then we will discuss the answers. So we'll now discuss the answers now. So we are now up with the answers. So the first question, AFX has collected 8,000 rupees. As I told, it's Resident Welfare Association. It's not NGO. Just make it clear. We have asked what is the taxable amount? What is the taxable value? Yeah. So 8,000 rupees per month is taxable because it's more than 7,500. I told there's a CBSE clarification which says once it is crossing 7,500, entire amount is taxable. So that would be 8,000 into 400 members into 12 months. 8,000 into 400 members into 12 months. The answer will be 3 crore 84 lakhs will be the taxable value. About 2,000 per month is exempt, no GST. The answer is 3 crore 84 lakhs is the taxable value. Next one, again, this is a Resident Welfare Association. We told gym, might be people might have got guided by the fact it's NGO, so many people would have given exemption. But again, clarify it's Resident Welfare Association. So the answer is entire amount is taxable because it's a specific facility offered. So 2,000 into 300 members into 12 months. Entire amount is taxable. 72 lakhs is the answer. Service provided by an NGO involved in industrial welfare to its own members for consideration in the form of membership fee up to, okay, so this is something which we are yet to discuss this point. It's a Resident Welfare Association. We need to 7,000, if it is a Resident Welfare Association, 7,500. However, if it is for industrial welfare, specifically, this point we are yet to discuss will be, anyway, that's part of another discussion, miscellaneous points. But anyway, because it's covered here, we just say it as 1,000 rupees is the exemption. Okay, the answer is 1,000. I didn't discuss it, it's okay. If you got it wrong, it's absolutely fine. Most of you answered 7,500, show that you have listened. Okay, next one. ANX is,
TRS,
yeah.
It's a 7,500 per month, right?
Yeah, 7,500 per month per member.
Okay, because the option says per year, so we'll have to change it, right? So for industrial exemption, it will be 1,000 per year.
Oh, that
per month.
1,000 rupees per member per year is correct. Whereas 1,500 per member per month.
Okay. Month, okay.
Even that is still wrong because for that particular clause I have not discussed in my list itself. So that
okay.
Discussion. Okay. So next one is resident welfare collected shift in shift out charges is taxable. So this ragging fees and all is taxable, 100% taxable. Services provided by Resident Welfare Association to its own members. This is 7,500 per month per member. Member per month is the exemption, not per year. So we might get easily guided away by the options. You have to be careful. Which of the following services provided to an education institution is exempt? All the above, perfect answer. Everybody got it right. Services by an education institution is exempted. The services are to its own students, faculty, staff is perfect. Which of the following services provided by IIM is not exempted? The answer is Executive Development Program is the answer. 5-year and 2-year courses are exempt. Both are exempt. Executive Development Program is the answer. The next point, which of the following services are taxable? Private tuition is taxable. Foreign university is taxable. I told foreign university is an example, but we also made it clear that any classes which is part of the curriculum only is exempt. We gave the example of a CA coaching classes also. So even that is not that is not exempt. That is also taxable. So all of the above is the answer. The last one, the answer is conducting modular employable skill course is exempt, and fees from prospective employees for campus placements is taxable. Because we specifically discussed that point, vocational training is also part of educational institution. We told that we have technical courses, polytechnic, etc. So they are all vocational training. That is also part of the tax or the exemption. So number 1 is exempt and number 2 is taxable. That's about it. So with this, the third set of questions are done. And yeah, we are about time. We will now close it for today. Thank you so much for joining with me today. I appreciate your time which you spent with me. And some of the points, we have more questions. This is just a sample 30 questions. We have each topic about 10, 15, 20 questions are there for each topic. So we have accumulated in our library. So you can visit, you have to log into Google Classroom. I repeat, you have to log into Google Classroom. There's something called Google Classroom. You should log into that. And after logging to the Google Classroom, that it will ask for a code. If you type that code, you will be able to access those MCQs, multiple choice questions, so that you can test your understanding as such. So let me share that code to you now. So it is I'm just putting in the chat box so that you can track that code. So you can log in and you can evaluate yourself on where exactly you stand on these specific points. We still have more points to discuss. We will set up one more kind of session where we will cover the rest of those points. The code is KVWYHY3. Okay, I've just shared it in the chat. Request you to, you can log into Google Classroom. It's just Google. You can type Google Classroom in Google. Click there. You can log in through your Gmail ID, and give this code. You'll be able to access the MCQs. So you can evaluate yourself. Please do remember, in CA Final and CA Inter, you have about 30%, 30 marks is on MCQs. It's a good way of understanding it. And also another 9 marks in this area comes from problem-oriented questions. So you can see that also. One question which is asked: any kind of fees like maintenance fees, membership fees collected by association, if it exceeds 7,500, is taxable. Yes, you are right, Nandini. It is taxable. So let me repeat the code: KVWYHY3. That's the code. So you can log into Google Classroom, put this code and access it. And also, thank you so much for joining with me today. Sorry for the initial some 10-15 minutes delay of technical issues. We will catch up. We have another 50% is there. I hope you found this useful, and please do share your feedbacks of how we can improve the way we share the contents. And of course, these presentations also we would share it to you once the other 50% is also over. You can effectively say that this one particular map covers about 10 marks for your examination, just one page. So you can just quickly run through, which otherwise takes about easily about 3-4 hours. You can just quickly run through this as such. Okay. Thank you so much for being with me today. Have a good night. Thank you.